Musa Kalenga.
My book. Musa, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to CEOwise.
Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed your book, Ladders and Trampolines. What inspired you to write it?
Quite a bit. I think I had been collecting some stories over kind of 5 or 7 years. I write because it's cathartic to me. And I had small little snippets of stuff that I'd experienced. And I just got to a point where after I had my son, I started realizing that there was a bit of a communication gap cross-generation. Because with my dad, there were certain things I wanted to understand about him and what he went through and potentially some of the stuff that he had learned. And it was often difficult to access that information. So one of the big reasons I wrote a book was essentially, for one day my son to be able to pick it up and read some stuff that I either may have forgotten or have not had time to tell him, but to have a reference point, I think primarily, but also hopefully to document some of the things that I did wrong and document it in such a way that he can read it without it coming across as endorsement of failure, but seeing the broader journey. And then last but not least, I fundamentally believe Africans should be capturing our stories more.
Can you explain what the theory ladders versus trampolines is all about?
They're two mental constructs, right? So most children are grown up and they're taught and they're brought up thinking that they only need to follow the ladder route, the incremental growth route. So that means go to school, get a good job, with that good job, become a junior manager, become a senior manager, then become an exec. Then at some point you get golden cufflinks and a great tie for long service. And that's typically what the construct is. And for the majority of young people out there, that's probably what they're going to end up doing. What I try to do in the book is I try to debunk that. I say, there's another option, and the other option is okay to explore. And the other option is this notion of a trampoline. And the trampoline view is there are opportunities that you'll be able to access, provided you can create value and add value in a situation that with exactly the same effort as a ladder will get you to even a higher place or even a better place in life. So the trampoline view is same effort, same energy, great value to add into the world, will put you in a different place to where you'd go with the ladder.
Now, your description of ladder versus trampoline thinking is what keeps some businesses from good to being great. Now, how do we cultivate trampoline thinking?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think in the context of, if we look at South Africa, it's a critical question because the structure of organizations in South Africa is quite defined. In order for you to be in a senior level or a board position in a JSE listed company, you need to be a CA. And CAs typically think in a very particular way, and that's typically a trampoline way of thinking. They're risk averse, they don't necessarily believe in exponential, they believe in having things kind of boxed and having predictability in their approach. Now, in order for us to cultivate a more kind of trampoline orientated environment or organization, number one, you need to bring in a more diverse skill set in terms of people. From a reference point, if we're sitting around a room and we're tackling a problem and we all think the same, the probability of having a really amazing and different solution to that problem is quite limited. But if you bring in people that think fundamentally differently from the way you think and challenge the notion of solutions based on the way you bring solutions, then I think we enrich all around the experience and we get better solutions.
A lot of companies haven't realized that marketing has changed and we need to be marketing for people and not to people. What should we be focusing on in our marketing strategies?
I think that the core kind of departure point, and I speak about it a lot, is in our context, digital is now the environment, right? So you need to market in a digital context. And if you're marketing in a digital context, you are fundamentally marketing for people, right? Because of the devices that we have every day, because of the access to information that we have, you need to be showing up in a context that makes sense for the person that you're trying to speak to. So the shift from a marketing perspective is the traditional mediums that people usually use, as you said, are broadcast mediums. So they're sending a message and they're blasting it across, and hopefully, they hope to land one or two, not really knowing if they do or they don't. The change that has happened now is that that process is now dynamic. And for the brands that are doing it well, the dynamism is what really gives them kind of the entrenchment in people's hearts and minds. So that dynamism that allows you now to take a marketing message and make it real in someone's life, and through making it real, essentially get them to do some action, whether it's purchase, whether it's endorsement, whether it's that's where the true value is. Now, bridging that gap is where a lot of senior execs and marketing execs don't have the knowledge. And the knowledge is, how do I take marketing, which is a principle of getting customers and keeping customers, and how do I cross that bridge to saying the customers that I've gotten and I've kept, I need to create advocates and I need to create people that are going to endorse me over a long period of time. And what's in the middle is this kind of digital divide that they need to jump over.
You've had some experience with partnerships, which have not been all favorable. What advice do you have to people wanting to go down this road at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to consider because, especially for young businesses and young entrepreneurs and people that are starting new endeavors and ventures, we generally as African people feel like we need more help than we actually do. And as a result, we tend to try and partner a lot when we're starting out. And as a young business, as a young entrepreneur, I went through the same thing. So I think the advice that I'd give to people is, try and understand very clearly what the partner that you're going to be getting involved with is bringing to the table, right? So it doesn't make sense for you to partner with someone who does exactly what you do, all right? From a value perspective, you're not going to get anything, and in the long run, you're probably going to frustrate each other. The second thing is, try and be clear on vision. You know, in my book, I speak a lot about it because I think that was one of the reasons why the partnership fell apart in my case when I was doing the merger, is that I'd never aligned on vision with my partner at the time. So in my mind, I was quite clear about what I wanted to see because I was owner-founder of my business. And in his mind, he was quite clear about what he wanted to see because he was owner-founder of his business. Yes. But when you put us together, I was kind of pulling in one direction and he was pulling in the other. So we never sat down before we signed everything and kind of aligned, and we never went through the process of actually going, what is in your head? What do you see in 5 or 10 years' time? And what makes sense? And through that process, you kind of kick the tires and you synergize and you figure out whether this is something that can work or not.
Yeah, and I think one of my other entrepreneurs, Cairo, he said, don't go for a partnership just because it's convenient at the time.
Absolutely. You know? And then that's part of being desperate when you're young. Exactly. You know, when you're kind of going, shucks, I need something, this person looks like they can deliver on me, and then I'm just like, let's do it. And I think, you know, if we measured about that, and it takes a bit of maturity to understand that as well. But if you take your time in entering partnerships, because it's like a marriage, you know, you're committing to someone and they're committing to you. And if you think about it in that context, sometimes putting the brakes on and just going, okay, let me think about this clearer, really, really helps.
You are an industry disruptor, which is evident from your time at Nedbank. How do you get people to buy in when they're so focused on ROI?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and that's a big title, industry disruptor.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's true.
I think my approach personally is I'm a heart then a head person. Okay. All right. So in any leadership position that I'm in, and in any environment that I go into, I try and win people's hearts first before I win their heads. Try and understand kind of what they're about and what their heartbeat is and what adds value to them, what makes them. And if you come from that point of view and you're creating a strategy and you're trying to illustrate value, you've kind of won the soldiers, right? The second then thing is, once people's hearts have been committed to you, you need to demonstrate competency in leading them to a place where they buy into. And in my case, when I was at Nedbank, there was kind of undefined view of what digital marketing was from a group perspective. So I needed to be very clear about making people understand what our direction was going to be, what digital marketing meant, and what role they played in that journey. And if they kind of bought into those two things, illustrating ROI became slightly simpler.